everyone, and welcome to the Next Decision podcast. I'm your host, Jarie Bolander, and I'm here with the co-founder of PickFu, Mr. John Lee. What's going on, John?
Hey, Jarie. Great to be here.
Yeah, appreciate your time, man. We first met on my old podcast, The Entrepreneur Ethos, and I'm just so fascinated with what PickFu does and how you guys are sort of evolving in this new world of AI and marketing and really like powerful stuff. So before we geek out on all that, maybe you should why don't you tell us what PickFu does?
Yeah, so you can think of PickFu like a digital focus group. We let designers, product people, marketers, entrepreneurs tap into panels of over, I think, 15, 20 million people around the world, across over a dozen countries, so that they can ask their target audience directly and get their feedback about things that matter directly to their business. So it's very fast feedback, nearly instant, super easy to use.
Yeah, I've used it a bunch, actually. And all of my author friends, if you're an independent self-publishing author, and even if you're not, even if you've got a publisher, chances are when they're like, hey, which cover should I use? They'd probably use PickFu to figure out which one's going to resonate. So love what you guys are doing. And so I'm just curious, like, what are the main, verticals, markets? I mean, you mentioned like, what, millions and millions of people. I'm assuming they're consumers, or probably not a lot of B2B folk.
Right. Mostly consumers. We tap into the same consumer panels that all the big corporations and CPGs like Procter and Gamble and Mondelez, they tap into they have all these third-party consumer panels that they tap into using their internal research teams and consultants and so on. And so PickFu tries to shortcut that entire process, all the middlemen, and give access directly to those consumer panels to anyone who is curious, who needs consumer feedback. In terms of the different verticals, we service a whole bunch of different verticals. But like you said, one of the first verticals we serviced were authors, right? Testing book covers and book titles. Which cover do you prefer? Really proud to say that PickFu has contributed to numerous New York Times selling bestseller books. So really proud about that. We also serve the game industry a lot. So a lot of the hit games that you see in, like, particularly mobile games in the App Store, helping the designers and creative directors, figure out character design, game concepts, gameplay, all of that stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to get feedback on really early on in the process. You can do that with PickFu. So we have our hand in a lot of hit games out there, which I'm, always excited to see. And then one of our biggest verticals are consumer products. So people who sell on Amazon, DTC companies, products, testing their packaging, testing their digital marketing, their hero images on digital marketplaces, and even their packaging and product design and everything. So, PickFu is kind of a Swiss Army knife of easy to use consumer research, and basically be really applicable for anyone who is serving consumers.
Yeah, I mean, this whole, B2B to C thing that we've talked about previously, I think that's the kind of the power of what you're doing. I mean, you sell to businesses, but you are then trying to figure out how they can sell to their consumers.
Right.
So it's interesting because you have to kind of know, one, you have to know how to sell to businesses, but then also what do consumers want? And I'm curious, how does that tension kind of resolve itself? I mean, obviously, PickFu wants to expand and grow, and so you've got to market to businesses, but then also really pay attention to how consumers want to take surveys, etc. How does that all work out?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of times most people think that being able to reach consumer panels and like surveying is just a simple thing. It's actually kind of there's two equal sides of the business, and there's actually a lot of complexity around making sure that the quality of the panelists and the responses that come through are really high quality, right? The a lot of these consumer panels, the respondents are incentivized in some way. And anytime you have a system with incentives, you have a lot of people who are trying to game the system. And so we spend a lot of our time putting together the right systems and filters and everything on the panel side to make sure that everything that, if you're paying for a poll, or a survey, like anything that comes through is already, quadruple filtered, whatever filtered, so that you are getting really high quality. That's kind of the role typically of market research consultants. And so there's that tension just within the business of making sure that the service is producing, able to gather high quality consumer feedback that is reliable. And then on our marketing side, it's an educational process, right? Because a lot of times people in B2C companies often don't realize that research can be this simple and fast and effective.
Oh, they don't do that in B2B either.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Even worse in B2B.
Yeah. And there's always bias of like, oh, well, I know best. I know what my user needs. I know what my customer needs. And particularly when you are serving consumers, then oftentimes they are not you, right? So if you're just going around making decisions based on your gut, then you're basically flying blind. And that was kind of the reason that we started this in the first place. We started PickFu as a side project to help us get out of our heads and get feedback on a website redesign that we were doing a long time ago. And we wanted to get feedback from strangers, but didn't really want to talk to strangers at a coffee shop. So we kind of built this.
Who do you think?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And our families were getting tired of saying, yeah, that's a great idea, right?
They'll never tell you the truth, right?
Of course.
Cool. Okay. So this was a need that you guys found, that you wanted the rapid feedback from random people.
Yeah.
In a way that's going to help move forward, whatever you were doing. And I'm glad you brought up the not miscommunication, not the right word. The misnomer, right? That you don't need to do market research or market research is hard.
Right.
One of the things that is really powerful about PickFu, and full disclosure, I've used it a bunch of times. And in fact, you had actually helped me with a project I'm working on, which is really cool as well. But the ease of use, it's so fast. And, directionally, again, like, okay, people can always say like, well, it's not statistically significant, it's not thousands and thousands. And you're like, no data is perfect. Some data is better than no data. And directionally, you can really get some powerful insights. And I remember I was working with one of our broadband service providers, and I'm going through offers. And funnily enough, I do the survey, have this result, and I show them. I said, hey, does this make sense to you guys in terms of how many sales do you have with these offers? And then they looked at the distribution of who would take it, and they're like, yeah, it's about right. And so that's not only validation, one, two, based on this real data, but three, if you're going to do another offer, why not test it? Like it's not, I don't remember. I was like, it's like $100 for, I don't know how many. It's not, we're not talking about a ton of money. Yeah. So what is it that you guys have to tell people? Because I can imagine it, like, I don't know if it's a tough sell. Maybe that's not the right word, but I don't know a lot of marketing people that are like routinely testing things. They say they do, but they're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of this. It's our users often need to break out of their typical mindset of like their attitudes towards research, because think about this more as micro research, right? If you think about research, you think about it as, budget, like 5-digit budgets, 5-month wait times. This is sort of the really big thing, but this micro research is very much, hey, I'm coming up with this kind of creative. I'm sitting right here and I have book titles. I have book covers. I have a marketing campaign. I have something like, it would be great to just get some really fast feedback, and you can get onto PickFu and launch a poll in like 3 minutes, and you could have feedback. You could have people writing back and giving you feedback within like 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. So we see, by reducing the time and cost and access to research, to user research like this, we've basically seen whole new workflows get unlocked in the creative world, right? And so let's say, for example, Amazon, we are used by many of the biggest selling, like the biggest Amazon sellers, because they optimize their listing images on Amazon on a digital marketplace. You're scrolling through Amazon and it's the pictures, right? Better pics get more clicks, as they say. And
I love that. I love that.
What they do is they can put up versions, put it on PickFu, run a poll, target their audience, right? Let's say female pet owners. They can do that, like female dog owners. Let's say they do that. They run the poll, get 30 to 50 people, 100 people, come back in 30 minutes. They get all the votes, right? So not only the quantitative, but also the qualitative. Every single person gives a very detailed written response. And it's the written responses that help us also filter for quality, right? So that we know that people are paying attention and so on. And so with that kind of fast cycle, what these designers do is they can read all the comments, and maybe it's, the angle of the dog in picture 1, but it's the color of the product in picture 2. And now they can iterate and do another version and test again. And so we have users who are running polls all day as they are, and have incorporated it in their design process as they keep creating.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's fascinating. It really is, because I mean, the thing I was working on with these broadband service providers was, okay, we've got these value-based offers. That's what our mantra, right? Okay, well, let's see who would buy these offers based on demographics, like just the general thing. And, these are by state. They're in some cases rural communities or, suburban and urban communities. But just to kind of get a baseline of this is what the marketplace thinks. And more importantly, like, do they understand what it is, And I did this with two of our clients, and some of it was obvious. Okay, yeah, I get it. Then some of it was non-obvious, and I thought it was really fascinating to then take that data and then okay, think through what are the actual, how many offers, who are they going to resonate with, and also depending on the region too, which I thought, that's going to be hard for me. I don't live in rural Virginia or wherever I go. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's going to resonate, and I would be a bit arrogant if I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't. Who knows? I even tell people, I'm like, yeah, there's 12 channels of campaigns that you can do. I don't know which one's going to work for you, but we could try it, but I can generally have a good idea. But that's the thing I think is powerful, is at least getting some direction, and I'm curious, with the advent of all this AI shenanigans and all these agents, blah, we talk about that infinitum. How's PickFu kind of adapting to that? Are there things that you guys are working on that are going to kind of take advantage of that and or integrate into workflows? Because one of the things I think is would be super cool is, and again, this is me, just my fantasy, my fever dream, being able to test some stuff and then deploy it and then iterate and deploy. You just have this constant closing the loop method. That's powerful, and you guys are perfectly positioned for that.
Yeah, no, good question. I mean, this is something that we think about constantly. It's hard not to think about it. But I think your term of AI shenanigans is perfect. I feel
I'm
like
an old soul. I use knucklehead and shenanigan.
Yeah. I feel like we are just surrounded by AI shenanigans right now.
100%.
I personally feel that PickFu is very well positioned for this next stage of wherever all of this is going, right? Because in a world where you have, I guess, first on the content side, in the world of ever increasing AI content, you really need human feedback to figure out what works.
Yes,
because because the target consumer of the AI generated content are humans, right? So now you just have more variations, but you definitely need to sanity check with real humans in order to figure out what signal is going to work best. So I think as a broad, as a broad statement, I'm very optimistic about the need for PickFu, like as time goes on. In terms of systems, we're actively trying to make sure that we are pluggable and can be part of the upcoming ecosystems. So last year we launched a Zapier connection. We haven't publicized it too much, but we have had users using the Zapier connection to basically automate their workflows, right? Creatives upload, automatically launches a poll, gets a webhook when the poll is done, and then they can move on with whatnot. We're working on a new API. We're working on that, you might be interested in. We're actually working on an MCP as well. Cool. So that you can point your agent to, for all your AI assistant agentic workflows. So we are trying to be easily accessible from almost, any method, any interface.
Cool. Yeah. And I know one of the things that we had talked about, and one of the reasons you're on the show, because I'm like, hey, John, what do you think?
Yeah.
Is this there had been this article that was swirling around, one about synthetic responses and this Bayesian marketing, which is all super tech, nerdy stuff. And one of the things that I know we've always talked about is like, okay, how do I obviously one of the limitations of polling humans is that there's only so many, although there's millions, so that's fine. But also one of the things about Bayesian and trying to run more simulations, I call them simulations, right? And so I think that's an interesting thing. I mean, you guys having that like rich data set, are you looking to figure out how to like give directional like inputs or like, hey, advice on, hey, this creative versus that creative? I don't know if your terms of service allow that, but it seems like, I don't know how many polls have you guys done? Must be a ton, like
millions.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, as the like source of truth for consumer data, I mean, you're pretty much there. I'm just curious how like people are going to evolve through that, because I could see, to your point, like you hook to an MCP, your MCP, and then you're like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. Any advice on the best way to do this?
Absolutely.
And I'm just curious if that's sort of on your roadmap.
So we actually already have something like that.
Oh,
so
cool.
We've recently launched what we call PickFu AI. It's a helper sidebar essentially, right? So if you've finished running a survey with, let's say 75 nutritional supplement takers, then you'll have your results, and on the sidebar we have a PickFu AI, and you can chat with your results. So we currently already do AI analysis on all the results. We try to extract some insights for you, suggest a next study if you want to, but you can pop open the sidebar, chat with your results, try to peel out more insights from there, and maybe run future polls. PickFu AI also will make suggestions on how to phrase and create a new poll. We're actively trying to improve that as well. And so we're definitely on the study creation side of things, we're actively working on trying to always make it easier for our users to be able to get the insights that they want. And I know that, no matter how easy we can make the web interface, if we present something that is powerful and flexible to users, there's always going to be a challenge of like, am I doing this the right way? Right? Because particularly if you don't have a lot of experience with research, how do you phrase the right question? What is the right sample size? Is my targeting too broad or too narrow? Oftentimes people come and they think that, oh, well, I have this one audience segment that I just need to target. And if you can't get exactly that, and if you can't find 1,000 people who are left-handed, who live in this city, who play this kind of video game, then like you're useless to me. And oftentimes they come in with their own preconceived notions, like sort of this myopia of like, if it's not this, then there's no value. And but the truth is that you can shrink your sample size, you can broaden your targeting, and you can get a lot more signal. And oftentimes, for example, on Amazon, let's say, there will be a lot of Amazon sellers who come in with a product who think, okay, I know I'm selling this product. I know exactly who my target audience is. But what they miss is that oftentimes their target audience are people who might buy that gift for that person. So rather than, let's say it's a product for men, often I think on Amazon, like 75% of the sales are driven by women because they're shopping for not only themselves, but their family and so on.
Right,
Right.
right.
So if you are myopic about the targeting and whatnot, then you're basically missing the bigger picture. So aside from that digression, I would say that there can still be complexity in terms of using a web interface and we're actively trying to figure out the best ways that we can help our users basically be a professional researcher, right? Like everything that we can do to help them, we're trying.
Yeah, because I gotta believe that in the new world order, whenever that comes in the singularity or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever the future
exactly. Yeah.
holds, authentic feedback, real people is going to matter more and more. I mean, synthetic stuff aside, which is important for simulations and stuff, I'm a big proponent of.
Yeah.
There's still, to your point, I think you mentioned something about it's still a human buying it. I mean, maybe at some point
Maybe at some point, right.
your robot will buy it for you, but in the end, you have to resonate with the person. And I think more and more, and I'd love your thoughts on this, I think more and more authenticity is now going to be the coin of the realm.
Yeah.
You're right with all this like AI content, AI slop, I think people are going to be more and more wanting to listen to like, oh, that is really Jarie and that really is John.
Right.
These are not AI generated folks. We're actually like, make mistakes and have stupid jokes and use and play stupid games. So what do you think? Like how do you think that's all going to pan out? Because you clearly have access to the authentic people that are doing that.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. So touching back on your previous point about synthetics, I think that we were chatting earlier previously about that study, the SSR study, and I know that there's a lot of other interesting studies coming out of academia around synthetic panels, and those are all fascinating. I think there's a balance, and we're actively researching this and we're looking at it. And I think that there is a huge spectrum of ways in which AI can be applied as, an augmentation, an alternative supplement to existing human panels. I personally, probably just because we're biased that we have access to all these millions of consumers and we also have all the data from all our historical polls. I think that I feel like anything synthetic should always be grounded in human truth, right? In actual authentic human reaction. And so from my perspective and from our product, I would always start from I will always start from that. I think that pure synthetic has its place. At some point, we may explore doing that, but from our perspective, I think a combination of pure synthetic supported by grounded human, human validated feedback is going to be a better offering. And it's such a challenging space because there are certain situations where synthetics might work, right? Like if you're doing broad, maybe Bayesian marketing or like sort of broad segments, then that's very different from, well, look at these three pictures and what would 15 whatever's like think about this and give detailed explanations, right? So there's just this huge spectrum to explore. We're actively exploring it. And I think that because I think we definitely want to tap into the data we already have and also the panel access we have. But at the same time, we don't want to lose the trust of our users as well, right? Because a lot of times, like you could have 10 different companies say that they have synthetics and that they're following the best practices. But like, where is that grounded, right? And like
what is the best practices,
what
you
is the
know,
best
like
practices, right?
what is the standard on that? Yeah.
Exactly. And so I guess just from sort of a product philosophy perspective, I wouldn't want to put anything out there that is not grounded in like the current best practices and also validated based on the best way that we can validate, which is with humans.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I think this is like, yeah, bleeding edge, Brave New World type stuff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of a lot of the papers and a lot of the talk, right, is to not only accelerate like time to actual insight, but also being able to simulate. I mean, I think some of these guys, you know, like they're running thousands of
Yeah.
panels, like, you know,
Right.
and you can't, obviously that's potentially prohibitively expensive. But also, I mean, I think the one I read was like, it was like 80 to 85% accurate, you know, based on human. But you're right. It's like, it depends on what it is, because some of the stuff I was running, it was more like 40%.
Right.
And it
Right.
was almost like, this is pretty trashy.
Yeah,
It was
we've
fun.
seen that too, like
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
replicate some of those
It's,
SSRs, and I mean,
it's,
yeah,
it's like anything. It's like, oh, we just made quantum computing and we
yeah,
did an N of one, and you're like, cool, I
yeah,
can't reproduce it. Hey, we have a perpetual motion machine, free energy, and you're like,
exactly.
cool. Yeah, it didn't work. So yeah, you take it kind of with a grain of salt. But here's the thing I think that is fascinating. And I'm glad you brought up like grounded in human reality, or grounded in like that. I don't remember exactly what you said. It was like human centered, or like
Mhm.
grounded in like
Yeah,
real feedback from humans. Again, I think that's the authenticity. I think people are they're gonna crave the real thing, you know,
yeah,
like, yeah, you can accelerate content development in AI and image and da da da. And you know, again, we do that too here at Decision Council. We're experimenting with AI video and doing a bunch of cool stuff. But I think in reality, like anything, people want the real thing, and authenticity, the artisanship of it. Um, you know, people say, oh, you know, AI is going to take a bunch of jobs. And that's probably true, but then the jobs are going to move like they always
of
do.
course. They always do. Yeah,
Fundamentally, there's going to be someone else. There's going to be something else to do. And I just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the future holds, but certainly it's like on for the ride. Let's go.
yeah, yeah. We're all gonna be living like that Wall-E movie or something, right? Just
Well, I hope
sitting
not in
around.
that sense. So, yeah. So John, like, what's the next decision that PickFu has to make? What are some of the things that you guys are like actively like? Gosh, we're either at an inflection point, what have you, and then the follow up to that is like, you know, what's the next decision some of your customers have to make as they think through this? Because a lot of times, you know, they will probably ask you like, what's the future? Well, I don't know. Just curious.
Yeah. Um, Great question. I mean, I think next decision, there's a billion, right? Um, I think I think for us, it's deciding around how much, um, you know, we deciding how much to lean into AI access versus making it easier for AI versus making it easier for humans. And
Mm,
I think that there's different ways to improve our
interesting.
marketing for our current users and sort of user verticals. And then there's also different ways to market to AI and be more AI visible and so on. And I think from a marketing perspective, anyone who's looked at was that the new term like AEO, the growing or
Oh yeah,
GEO?
experience engine optimi or XEO, and then
Yeah,
answer
yeah. So,
engine, and then
something EO,
generative and
right?
SEO, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Consonant EO, something, right? Like
EIEIO.
yeah, yeah, EIEIO. There's just this huge new world of marketing. I wouldn't want to say marketing to machines, but marketing to agents, and
Yeah,
then also right. And as people, especially as AI, more and more of the knowledge worker workforce is using AI, then that's a really interesting area for us. So just on the marketing side, there's that sort of that weird inflection point for us. Um, Towards your second question, decisions that your audience would probably need to make is like, where are there things in their current creative workflows that would benefit from unbiased consumer feedback, and I would suspect that there's a lot of them, and that's an opportunity for impact and leverage in their day to day because, for example, like if you can have validation on your hunches, on your
Yeah.
creatives in an hour or less, then imagine what that can do, right? We hear stories from consultants and from employees at companies who are like, I used PickFu to prove my point, right? I wanted to like I was trying to convince my boss about this, and my boss
Yes.
was just poo-pooing my idea, so I put it on PickFu and I, ran the poll and mine won, and I showed it to him, or or some if you're running a consultancy or an agency, they use PickFu all the time to justify their work to their clients, right? This is what this was before. This is what we did. We ran it to a panel of 100 so and so,
Yeah.
right?
Side by
They
side. Yeah.
obviously approved. They preferred ours, right? Like, so there's a lot of impact that it can have in your day to day.
Yeah. Well, that's super fascinating. Then also that you're like doing it into their workflow. Because I think one of the biggest challenges, I mean, we face this too. It's if it's not in the workflow, it just doesn't get done, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you think, another question, how do you think people can now insert this into their workflow? Like what has been some of the most successful folks that have, successfully integrated it? Like, I think you mentioned that there's some creatives that just like do a creative, push it off and go.
Yeah.
How can people do that?
They look at it. Usually it's the individuals who are doing the work, right? It's not
Hmm.
the insights team. It's
Right.
PickFu is used by the people who are actually doing the work. So anyone who's doing creative work, anytime you have variations or you're trying to brainstorm product concepts,
Hmm.
just toss it out to PickFu, give it 30 minutes, come back and read the results and iterate on it, right? Like really read the human responses because oftentimes those are the things, we like to joke that people come for the what, but they stay for the why because of all the responses that panelists give that are very insightful, that help you be more creative, that help you have a bigger impact on whatever the next thing is that you're creating. So running polls is easy. In terms of incorporating into workflows, really sharing it within the team, and then also trying to post those links in your, like, we have some teams that add it as a row in their project management software. So in Asana, they'll have like the PickFu poll for all of these other things that they're building. So in their creative
Wow.
pipeline, they'll have that there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, John,
Yeah.
appreciate
Jarie.
the time, man. This has been super fascinating. I love what you guys are doing. If you are a B2C company and you need to figure out if your creative is going to resonate or you got a new product idea, go check out PickFu. They can definitely help you figure out what's going to resonate. John, thanks for being on the show, man. Really
Jarie,
appreciate it.
great talking to you. Thanks a lot.